almost a year into the COVID-19 pandemic, and it feels like everything has changed. We work in different places and in different ways now, like from my kitchen sometimes. We held Zoom Thanksgivings with our families. We grocery shop, participate in board meetings, watch movies, and manage virtual schooling, all from our living rooms. But one thing that hasn't changed, the need for reliable transportation. While many of us were able to work from home, many essential workers couldn't. The nurses, the janitors, the pharmacy techs, the grocery clerks, all those most essential workers who kept our society functioning, they depended on the bus to get where they needed to go. And those Detroit area buses remained absolutely vital throughout this pandemic for ensuring that essential workers could get where they need to go. And that's exactly why we at Transportation Riders United have been working for 20 years now to fight to defend and expand Detroit transit, because transit is essential. And while we certainly didn't expect to, TRU pivoted quickly when the March stay-at-home orders went into effect. Transit agencies made numerous changes very quickly in order to adapt to all the new information and expectations that were thrown on them, while still staying focused on keeping the transit rolling and keeping both drivers and riders safe. TRU helped those many essential workers who were still riding by compiling and sharing timely safety and service updates on our website and through social media. Fears were high. People were really afraid that buses could be huge super spreader events. So TRU delved into the research to find out. We learned that actually following a few safety procedures could make the bus relatively safe. So we shared that information everywhere we could. We put together a policy report, Safer Transit during COVID-19. We shared it online, in social media, through news media. And we hosted a Safer Transit during COVID-19 town hall in which our transit agency chiefs came together to update transit riders and to discuss their concerns.
I've been running into a lot of people that have been saying stuff like, how are you taking the bus during the pandemic? Do you have any concern that riders may drop due to the fear of taking public transit in the pandemic?
I'll take that one. So I think that there's definitely, in the short term, I think that is definitely a big role in the response, right? So if you think about if people have another choice, there is some guidance out there that kind of discourages people from using transit because of the coronavirus.
Mr. Oglesby, what steps can be taken or will be taken to ensure that individuals that need to enter the front of the bus are not being discriminated against?
I'm glad that you brought that up. You know, I had heard some rumblings of something like that, so I'm glad that I'm hearing it directly from somebody. I need to look into it. Let me look into it and see if there's some type of alert that I can put out or something to stop it.
In addition to reacting to the COVID-19 changes, TRU continued the dedicated advocacy for transit funding and policy improvements that we're best known for. Back before COVID-19 struck, we were battling to change state legislation to enable regional transit funding to get back on the ballot. With county leaders as champions, we testified. We mobilized hundreds of supporters to speak out. Unfortunately, legislative leaders would not listen, and those efforts stalled. We also began the year partnering with the Turn Oakland County Green campaign to work with new Oakland County Executive Dave Coulter to develop ways that the county could be a leader in tackling the climate crisis, which means tackling the transportation challenges we face too. But when COVID struck, of course, our advocacy focus shifted, and it shifted nationally. We joined Transportation for America and transit supporters nationwide to demand that transit agencies be included in emergency funding bills that help keep our buses rolling. And we succeeded. After the election, we brought our focus back to the state legislature and hosted a pair of virtual transit roundtables. Bringing state legislators together with bus riders and other transit supporters was a great way to share the importance of transit and to explore how our legislators can best support our community's transit needs. That effort continues into this year as well. As much of the world did, TRU pivoted our education, our engagement, our advocacy work to online. And in a few ways, it actually offered greater opportunity for engagement. We brought dozens of people together again when we hosted 2 other virtual town halls, one on transit and climate change, one exploring who decides transit. And we continue to keep people up to speed on important transit issues. We launched a new web series that we call Tapping into Transit, along with some fun new transit trivia nights, because it can't be all work all the time.
In cities where we see really robust transit is actually one of the quickest and best ways around. And so if we can think about how do we design our communities, that's going to happen at the local level. We need to improve the design of our communities in a way that integrates biking, that integrates walking, that integrates all these transit improvements, so that we can have people not thinking about it, but while they're not thinking about it, they're also not burning all those fossil fuels, polluting our air, making our communities less livable.
Why should people, bus riders in the D, vote yes on November 3rd?
The picture on the screen right now tells a lot of the story. The Michigan Natural Resources Trust Fund and the State Park Endowment Fund both are used for big projects like linear trails, like the DeQuinder Cut. Also, we want to see a greater proportion of amenities available to more people within a short drive.
So a number of the bigger improvements we know will take more funding to put into place. But what are some of the projects you have in that you're developing right now?
Sure. It's one of the other planning efforts that we're just completing is a regional look at services for seniors and people with disabilities. So this was a collaborative effort between the RTA, the providers, and several other service providers that work with people with disabilities and seniors to really identify the gaps in services for those specialized groups.
Well, not the year we planned for. I'm proud of our team's hard work this year to support transit riders and educate the community around COVID-19, to fight for the funding needed to keep the buses rolling, and to continue to advance the message of the value of transit despite many crises. All of this work is only possible thanks to the generous members of TRU. It wasn't an easy year, but our financial supporters kept us rolling. To each of our members, I say thank you. Moving into 2021, we are excited to work with new federal leaders who value transit and will fight climate change and fight inequity. We'll work hard to ensure that our region benefits from this more transit-friendly agenda. It's no sure thing, but together with our legislative partners, county champions, ally groups, transit supporters around the region, we can not only defend and maintain the essential bus service that has kept our society rolling, but we can build even broader region-wide support for transit and fiercely advocate for the truly great transit that our region needs. I look forward to working with each and every one of you to achieve all this and more. By working together, we'll fight for a great regional transit system, one that gets everyone where they need to go. Let's get to work.